Hey everyone, it's Jack here, TalkNorwichCity. Welcome back to another video, and welcome back to a cheery reflection video, looking back on Norwich City's 2-1 victory over Millwall on Boxing Day. Just as I said about a month ago that I love doing these reflection videos, usually on a Sunday, but this time on a Friday, looking back on the Thursday fixture. It's been a really kind of glum few weeks for Norwich, and it's been a difficult few weeks with suspensions, and the fixture list hasn't been kind, and Norwich have taken leads in the last couple of games and thrown them away, and Norwich have thrown away the most points of anyone in the Championship from winning positions. So this festive period against Millwall and QPR and Luton felt big, and it felt big because although it does feel as if we're heading in the right direction and we're building, and Johannes Torp is onto something good here, you still have to satisfy the kind of short-term needs of the football club, and that ultimately comes down to winning football matches and being in a position where you feel is adequate for Norwich City. And I would say this squad is probably, the expectations are within touching distance of the playoffs, but ultimately I think we probably lack a little bit at this stage. And it was an important win against Millwall, and let's talk through it. I mean, it was a lineup that I liked, actually, and I liked that midfield of Nunez and Slimane and Marcondes. I think let's start on Marcondes, who scored the opening goal. In terms of free signings and bits of recruitment that work, Marcondes ticks all of the boxes. I've been so impressed with him this season. He's fitted in a few different positions. He's got a few goals under his belt now. He's just everywhere. He's a very clever, very technical player, and has an edge of experience about him as well. So Marcondes has been brilliant. I thought that midfield worked nicely. I thought Anis Ben Slimane had one of his best games in a Norwich City shirt, and it's clear that he's getting up to full speed and is starting to to get fit and looks really sharp at this level. I think he, again, much like Marcondes, buzzes around really nicely. I thought he looked good going forwards. I thought he made a few really important interceptions, and ultimately, is a player that suits this model that Johannes is trying to play. Marcelino Nunez, we know what he's all about. Again, had a good game and one of his better, and nice to see him as well, kind of getting back to full fitness. He was substituted at about 65 minutes, clearly trying to manage load, and will be fit to play on Sunday. So great that we got the 3 points. Great that we could give Nunez 60 minutes, some minutes in the leg, and ultimately, bring him off before any harm was done. And look, Norwich looked really good in the first 45 minutes. They controlled the game. They got 2 goals. It could have been more. They limited Millwall to basically nothing. They created a lot, actually. This is a Millwall side that haven't conceded more than 1 goal since October the 1st. This is a side that give up very few chances, albeit don't create too much either. But Norwich were able to generate some really good opportunities, some beautiful build-up play from back to front. And this isn't this wasn't a surprise. Norwich have been good in the first half of football matches on lots of occasions this season, particularly at Carrow Road. And ultimately, we got ourselves a 2-goal advantage, both fairly scrappy goals, but really don't care. Marcondes with the first, Oscar Schwartau with the second. Really nice to see him off the mark. 18 years old. Again, a serious bit of recruitment from Norwich City. I think he looks really suited on that right wing. I think actually we've tried Hernandez there, we've tried Forson there, we've tried Sienats there. We've tried lots of players out on the right-hand side. I think Marcondes has played there on a couple of occasions. I think in terms of balance, Oscar Schwartau is probably the player until Sargent returns and maybe Sienats gets pushed out wide again. Schwartau is the man for the right-wing position. I thought he was brilliant. Really chuffed with his goal. His defensive work as well is second to none and adds a lot in that department and helps Fisher out in terms of tracking back. His final product is really good. He can dictate tempo. He looks so mature for 18 years old. I think there's a really bright future for Oscar Schwartau, and to get his goal in front of his family who travelled over for Christmas from Denmark, it was a really beautiful moment, and delighted for him. So you go into the half-time break, 2-0 up, cruising, and yes, Norwich struggled in the second half. They didn't have any, kind of dominance like they did in the first. They allowed Millwall back into the goal, and Esse scored after 65 minutes. If we hadn't have won this game, it would have been an absolute disaster because they certainly were deserved winners. But it once again comes back to this point, and I think it's actually nice that it's happened again, and it's a reminder for Ben Napper and the Atanasios and those that will have to be digging deep in the January transfer window that if we want to achieve anything this season, and look, I don't know what the expectations are at this stage. I would like to think that they will continue to push towards the playoffs, but ultimately I think, that might be a step too far in terms of where we are in this kind of journey at the moment, but I think it should still be an aim for Norwich City. I mean, you look at the top six: Blackburn, Watford, Sunderland, Burnley, Leeds, Sheffield United. I mean, we've competed against all of those teams and have picked up points against the majority of those. So, Norwich can compete and can certainly be in the mix for that top six. But if that is to happen, then we need reinforcement. It's clear that 65, 70 minutes into a game, when you're looking for substitutions and you're turning to your bench, that's when it gets difficult for Norwich. The substitutes yesterday were Jack Stacey, who came on for Marcelino Nunes. You had Omar Hernandez come onto the pitch, and then you're kind of looking and going, there's not much else, and that's difficult. And I know, look, we've got Kenny McLean to return this weekend. We've got Josh Sargent, who will hopefully be back in a couple of weeks' time. That does change the dynamic slightly then. And then you've maybe got a Schwartau to bring off the bench, and maybe you've got a Ben Slimane to bring off the bench. But still, it feels like you need a couple more, particularly in that midfield area, because, look, it's high intensity. There's lots of games. There's going to be more injuries from here on in, and we can't keep getting ourselves in really hard-fought positions where you're in front in games and the football's good and that work is undone because the quality coming off the bench is just so far below that on the pitch. But the pleasing thing about all of this is you can see what we're trying to do. I think the 45 minutes against Burnley, Sunderland, and Millwall here were all really impressive performances. If you can continue that into the second half, then we would have won all three of those games. Instead, we've only come out with 3 points from a potential 9. So I still feel it's a depth issue. I still feel like we're moving in the right direction. I mentioned here Marcondes, Slimane, Schwartau, all really good bits of business, all picked up for cheap. And have all come in and made an impact. You sprinkle a Josh Sargent, you sprinkle a Kenny McLean back into that mix, then you are on to something. And it's so confusing being a Norwich fan this season because, after the Sunderland game, I'm going, mid-table. It just screams like a mid-table kind of team. And then when you think, okay, well, maybe if we make a few additions in January and we can keep hold of Borja Science and you add Sargent and McLean back into the fold, and I'm looking at that midfield of Nunes and Slimane and Marcondes and going, oh, that's really exciting. I'm looking at the great performances from Kellen Fisher and I'm going, why not playoffs? Why not? And ultimately, I think Norwich probably will fall short this season, but you can see why some pundits, some neutrals have tipped Norwich up for kind of top 6 this season, because there is quality and there are good players, and there is a system that clearly works when it's implemented. So look, this was an important win. It was pretty for 45 minutes. It wasn't pretty for the second 45, but they dug in, they found goals. There were some good performances in there. We've got through it kind of injury-free. I think Crescene was just tired. It looked like he pulled his hamstring, but apparently that wasn't the case, so that's good. Again, Crescene thought he was very accomplished in that left-back role. And now we welcome QPR on Sunday, and that's another game that you should be targeting. I think they've just been beaten 3-0 by Swansea on Boxing Day. I mean, they were okay at Loftus Road. I thought we were just very poor that day. I think that's another winnable game. And then it's Luton, and then it's Coventry. So let's hope that this is the start of maybe a little run, because that would be lovely. Going into a really difficult period there. We've got Brighton in the Cup, Sheffield United and Leeds. So Norwich need to accumulate some points over the next few games, because it gets really, really tough and the back end of January. And then let's see where we're at, after a January transfer window, after the returns of Kenny McLean and Josh Sargent. But it very much the message is still patience. I think this system is working. I like the football we're playing. We've got some exciting young talent. It does feel as if we can make some additions in January, and let me know who you'd like to see come in January, then anything is possible with this Norwich City team. Buzzing for Sunday, buzzing to be back at Carrow Road. Love festive football at Carrow Road. I hope you all had a lovely Christmas, and I'll see you all again very soon. Bye-bye.